Shalom, children. Last time, we were learning about the heavenly kingdom of Elohim and how one day it will be fully established on earth. Yeshua had told his disciples he was sent to teach about the kingdom. When he preached, he used parables to explain what the kingdom is like. We heard one parable about a man who went out to sow seed on 4 different types of ground. Do you remember which of the soils brought forth fruit? Only one did. It was the seed that fell onto the good ground. Here it was able to be kept and nurtured in the heart, grow strong, and produce lots of good fruit. Today, we are going to hear another parable about sowing seed. Yeshua said to the people who had gathered, "The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed into the field. Whilst he slept, an enemy came in and sowed tares amongst the wheat seeds." Tares are a weed, which is a plant we do not want growing in a certain spot, in this case the field of wheat. Both the wheat plants and the tare plants sprouted and started to grow up alongside each other. The servants of the house came and reported to the master, "You sowed good seed in the field. How is it that there are tares in there?" The master said, "An enemy has done this." The servants then asked if they should go and remove the tares. But the master said no, because the wheat may get damaged when the tare is pulled out. Instead, he said, "Let them both continue to grow together, and at the time of the harvest, I will say to the reapers, 'Gather the tares into bundles and burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn.'" Let's take a look at those 2 plants again, wheat and a tare. They look very similar, don't they? However, when they are fully grown and the seeds are ready to be collected, it's a different story. When wheat is harvested, the grains are a beautiful golden yellow. They are ground up to a flour and made into a delicious bread that brings life. The ripe tare seeds look very different. They are small and black. When they are ground into a flour and made into tare bread, the person who eats it falls into a deep sleep. So even though the plants look the same, when they are fully grown and the fruit is harvested, one fruit is good and one fruit is bad. Do you remember when Yeshua was teaching about fruit trees? He said we will know a tree by its fruit. A good tree brings forth good fruit, and a bad tree will bring forth bad fruit. But he wasn't talking about apples and oranges, was he? No, he was talking about us and the type of fruit we have in our lives. In our parable, we have a good plant and a bad plant growing together in the same field. This represents those who walk in righteousness and those who walk in darkness. It is only at harvest time, when our heavenly King comes to establish his kingdom on earth, that the 2 different plants get separated. One is gathered and thrown into the fire to be destroyed. The other is saved and put into the barn. That is the kingdom. Have you ever had a morning where you were in such a deep sleep, your mother had a hard time waking you up for breakfast? Well, Eating a tare, a false wheat, is a bit like that. Imagine the tare is a wrong teaching about Yahweh. If we listen and believe that teaching, that is, eat the tare, we will become asleep and not be able to hear the truth about Elohim. This reminds me of the Pharisee leaders and the sages. When they taught the Torah, they looked like good wheat. But when they taught the extra laws and traditions, as if they were equal to Adonai's word, they were feeding people tare bread. Those who listened became sleepy. They were unable to hear the truth when Yeshua preached. They couldn't hear him when he told them they needed to repent. Children, being in covenant with Yahweh, that is, placing him as the king of our life, is how we start our journey to become citizens of the heavenly kingdom. We will learn more about the kingdom as we continue our journey. But for today, let's see what Yeshua and the disciples did next. When it was evening, they all got into a boat on the Sea of Galilee to cross over to the other side. Having become very tired, Yeshua went to sleep. A great windstorm rose up, and waves began to beat into the side of the boat, and it soon started filling up with water. The disciples, being very afraid, woke Yeshua up, saying, "Master, we are all going to die." Yeshua arose and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Shalom, be still." Immediately everything became calm. Yeshua asked the taught ones, "Why were you so fearful? Where is your faith?" They were astonished and said to each other, "Who can this be? Even the winds and the sea obey him." They brought the boat to the other side of the Galilee, an area called Gadara. The cities in this region were Roman and had many temples where the people worshipped other gods. One of the ways they honored their gods was to sacrifice pigs, lots of them. Children, do you remember from the Torah which animals are clean and unclean? The swine was one of the animals listed as being unclean, wasn't it? Adonai had told Moshe only clean animals were an acceptable offering to him. Clean animals such as the goat or bulls, but certainly not pigs. The Roman people in that area did not follow the instructions of Adonai as given to Moshe, and they had made their own gods and built temples for them. Many pigs were needed to be offered as sacrifices to their gods, so special men were employed to look after large herds, ensuring that they were kept safe as they foraged for food. The disciples pulled the boat up onto the shore. When Yeshua got out, he saw two very fierce-looking men who lived amongst the tombs of the dead. These men were possessed by unclean spirits. The local people were quite afraid of these men, and no one wanted to go near them. When the men saw Yeshua, they cried out with a loud voice, "Yeshua, son of Elohim, have you come to torment us before our time?" They supposed Yeshua would command them to leave the men, so they pleaded with him to let them go into a herd of swine that happened to be feeding nearby. This herd of swine was very large, about 2,000 pigs. Yeshua said, "Go." The unclean spirits left the men and entered into the swine. The pig started squealing and violently ran down the steep bank into the river. Every one of them drowned in the water. The two fierce men no longer had unclean spirits. They had been set free and made whole, and were able to sit calmly down. Those who were responsible for the pigs had been watching the whole event and fled to the city and told everyone what had happened. They explained how the animals had rushed down a hill and how all of them were now dead. Well, the residents of the city were very angry. Losing that many pigs would have meant losing a lot of money. Not to mention they now had no pigs to sacrifice to their god at the temple. The entire city came out to confront Yeshua about the incident and demanded that he leave the region immediately. Yeshua started to walk towards the boat to leave. One of the healed men went up to Yeshua and asked if he could go with him. Yeshua told him to go back to his own family and tell them how much compassion Yah had shown him. He listened and returned to his home, and then went throughout the whole city, telling of the great things Yeshua had done for him, and everyone who heard about it marveled. I am so glad for those two men, and that no one needs to be afraid of them anymore. They do not have to live in the tombs of the dead, and are able to join their families back at their homes. Now that Yeshua has set them free, they can live in Shalom. Well, children, that is the end of our story for today. So we will see you next time for another exciting journey in the life of Yeshua. Shalom.
Our Father in heaven, our Heavenly Father, let your name be sanctified. Oh, let your kingdom come, let your will be done as it is in heaven.